The world of the Elder Scrolls is massive, and most of it hasn't even been shown in the single-player games, with it, a lot of its creatures. And the main reason for this is that most creatures have a very specific native location. For example, you wouldn't find Draugrs in Cyrodiil or goblins in Skyrim, simply because, according to the lore, they just don't live there. So I'm going to make a top 5 rarest creatures in the Elder Scrolls series. Creatures that you might not even believe exist in this world. Now, keep in mind that the rarity of these creatures is completely reliant on them not being in the main single-player games. Let's talk about lycanthropy. Now, in the Elder Scrolls world, lycanthropy applies to every single beast form that can be obtained, not just the Lycan version, which is obviously the wrong way to use the term since, well, Lycan means wolf. But if you read the book on lycanthropy in Skyrim, you'll find that the author of the book actually argues the exact same thing, which means it is done on purpose. But regardless, there are a lot more forms that a character could turn into if bitten by the right cursed creature. Werewolves and werebears are really just the tip of the iceberg on this one. Roaming exclusively in High Rock, the elusive Wereboar can be seen. Suffering from the same effects as a werewolf, they are weak to silver weapons and extremely resistant to anything else. In daggerfall, you could actually turn into one of these if you were attacked by them. And according to the lore, it is also believed that it is the only way to turn into one of them. A change that would happen every single full moon. If you were turned into a Wereboar and you did not murder or kill a creature twice a month, the curse would inflict massive pain upon your body. Within the deep forests of Balanwood, legends speak of werevultures, creatures so rare that not a single one has ever been shown in any of the games, but only talked about. There are no official pictures of them either, but I would imagine they would look like harpies. Not sure how else to describe them since there is no official description of them either. The Werelion is allegedly one of the most common transformations that a person can take, and they seem to make their dwellings in Cyrodiil, Blackmarge, and elsewhere. Strangely enough, no Werelions are actually found in the game Oblivion, but it was probably just a resource issue with Bethesda. Maybe they just didn't have time to create it. The same thing can be seen with the werebears, who apparently are supposed to be very easy to find in Skyrim, but alas, it wasn't until Solstheim when we actually started seeing them. Were-crocodiles are very interesting, however, as apparently it seems to only affect Argonians. It is interesting for two reasons though. One, the obvious one, which is that it allegedly only affects a single race, but two, interesting because Argonians are actually naturally resistant to disease, yet it seems to affect them no problem. As you might imagine, however, were-crocodiles are found only in Blackmarge and Morrowind, where a large amount of Argonians might reside. Now, Mike the Liar claims there exists but another, a mysterious and dangerous creature of hell, writhing with the desire to exterminate and consume, the goddamn Whereshark. Yeah, okay, so we have like no information about this, just like with the Werevultures. We don't really have an official description or an official picture of it. I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine how such a monstrosity would look like, but we know that Mike is, well, sometimes a liar. The Lilmothiit are a mysterious race long thought to be extinct. In fact, the only reason we know of their existence is because according to the old Empire lore, a description of them can be found. They're supposed to be, just like the Khajiit are to cats, the Lilmothiit are to foxes. So in essence, they're supposed to be humanoids that look like foxes. They're supposed to live in Blackmarge, which would explain why we haven't seen them, since most of the marshes are actually unexplored. To top it all off, they really could be extinct. That's a possibility that we cannot rule out. During the Second Era, an extreme and virulent disease spread through the Black March, a flu that for some reason targeted every race other than Argonians in the marches. We call this the Khanatan flu, which is the biggest reason why the Black March is still considered mostly uninhabitable by anyone other than the Argonians, and the Hist, which are also immune to it. Whether the Lilmothiit are still alive in there somewhere, hidden from the world, we do not know. Now, the Imga are by far my favorite of the lesser-known creatures of Tamriel, mostly because they are by far the most hilarious. The Imgas are ape-like creatures who reside in Valenwood, but what makes them so interesting is that they're actually intelligent. Not high elf intelligent, hell, not even human intelligent, but they can definitely reason and speak and pretend to be intelligent. Their whole shtick is that they look up to the Altmer, so much so in fact that they try to be like them, in the most literal sense of the word. They wear capes to look like the Altmer, they try and walk and move like the Altmer do, they even try and speak like they do, trying to enunciate everything perfectly and use lingo way ahead of their intellect level to try and speak like they do, even though they still have that baboonish style accent which throws it all out, of course. They even go so far as to shave their entire bodies and powder themselves white to look more like the Altmer, but as clumsy as they are, they end up cutting themselves, which creates this very bizarre and pitiful look of an ape, with cuts all over the place, powdered to look like a clown or something. They are completely ridiculous. Some historical lore claims that they actually hate humans, probably so since the High Elves hate humans, since they try to imitate that hatred, but it is well known that Imgas actually reside in a lot of human colonies in the south, and trade happily with them as well. As if we would ever get naked ladies on an Elder Scrolls game again. This creature will probably never see the light of day ever. The Nymphs are allegedly immortal creatures who possess hidden knowledge about the world and its bestial inhabitants. Knowledge that not even the most well-known Bosmer would know. Interestingly enough, the lore doesn't really portray them as evil, or as the stereotypical nymph style of beast that seduces men with songs or with looks just to devour them when they get close. Instead, they are portrayed as very wise and intelligent creatures who simply stay away from society, and if anything, run away from human contact. They are said to have their own language, which indicates there's probably a society of them somewhere out there. A language magical in nature which makes it very difficult for the mortal races to learn, very similar to dragon language in that aspect, that learning it could very easily turn into a lifetime prospect rather than just a quick hobby. When challenged, however, they absorb stamina from their enemies to then quickly kill them as they lay immobile. The Sloads are by far the most well-known race, that is the least well-known, if that makes any sense. We actually have tons of information on them, history, culture, religion, cuisine, yet most single-player games in the Elder Scrolls franchise would have no idea who they are or where they live. The Sloads live in the archipelago of islands west of Tamriel, known as Thras, and allegedly they have been there since the very beginning of recorded history. Most of this history, however, is with the High Elves, since apparently they have been fighting each other since literally, again, the beginning of time. As much as you might like having the High Elves being fought against, the Sloads are by far considered to be the worst race on Nirn. Completely devoid of emotions, morality, and honor, these creatures are considered masters of necromancy, going so far as to create literal flying ships only to transport corpses for them to later on reanimate to be used in their wars against the elves. It is even well known that they use their own babies to fuel necromantic rituals. They are so bad that at one point in the First Era, it is said that they created a disease so devastating that it actually destroyed half of Tamriel's population, including the cattle. The disease and the threat of it was so bad that the biggest fleet ever recorded in history was formed to battle the Sloads, a battle which was won and ended up sunking most of the Sload Empire. They are fat and very much immobile for the most part, so they use teleportation spells to move around. It is also said that they use coral for all of their construction needs. If we were to get an Elder Scrolls game setting in the southern section of Tamriel, I would expect them to make a strong appearance. Don't be fooled though, the Sload Empire is very much strong.